Hello, you're watching The Big Story with me, Chao Suen. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel to stay up to date with our live news updates. Travelling into Singapore anytime soon? Well, that extra step of filling out the SG arrival card, which was introduced during the COVID-19 pandemic, looks set to be a permanent fixture. Currently, everyone entering Singapore through its air and sea checkpoints, including citizens, have to fill up the document online within 3 days prior to their arrival. Health Minister Ong Ye Kung says it's being retained to guard against importing infectious diseases of concern.
We deem this as a permanent feature. Of course, all features are reviewed from time to time. Yellow fever, MERS, they are all become endemic diseases in their parts of the world. And we don't want them to become endemic diseases in our part of the world, which therefore means that these are quite permanent feature that as of now we feel is necessary to prevent such diseases from coming into Singapore.
Meanwhile, Singaporeans living overseas may soon be able to vote by post if a new bill, which was tabled in Parliament today, gets passed. Aiming to look at voting and registration processes in the upcoming presidential elections, it means you'll no longer need to travel to physical polling stations, which are located in specific cities. Now, this was a situation which resulted in some voters not being able to vote because of travel restrictions during the 2020 general elections. Singaporeans who are already registered will also no longer need to re-register as overseas voters when the Register of Electors is revised. Overseas Singaporeans will also be given more time to register. The new bill will also make it more convenient for voters residing in nursing homes. It will allow for officers to establish special polling stations within the premises of nursing homes. It will also provide for mobile polling teams to be deployed for residents to cast their votes by the bed. And still in Parliament, responding to 26 questions from MPs on the overstated circulation data at SPH Media Trust, Communications and Information Minister Josephine Teo says the recent discovery will not affect the government's decision to fund the media company, which publishes the Straits Times.
I have explained the government's key concerns with respect to SMT's findings from its review of circulation data. Specifically, no public monies have been lost. There is no change to the decision to provide funding support to SMT. And there is no change to the amount of funding for SMT.
Mrs. Teo reiterates that the government's commitment to fund SMT up to $900 million over 5 years was meant to be used in these 3 areas: technology development, talent development, and the preservation of vernacular media. That is why the circulation data didn't factor into the decision to fund SMT. The reasons for funding were earlier aired and debated in Parliament in 2021 and 2022.
As members can see, in assessing the funding required for SMT's transformation, circulation numbers were not a key consideration. The level of funding previously assessed for the purposes of investing in technology and capability development remain valid.
Mrs. Teo stresses, however, that when government funding is disbursed, SMT will be held to account. She says the government's focus is on readership and reach, which measures how many people consume the content, and not circulation, which is how many print and digital copies are sold or distributed. In its agreement with SMT, the government has safeguards to ensure funding is used responsibly.
I informed Parliament last year about the key performance indicators, KPIs, we would be applying, including total reach and engagement of SMT's products, with a focus on their digital platforms, and specific reach indicators for vernacular groups and youths. The achievement of the KPIs will determine the amount of funding SMT receives. SMT's KPI performance and financial statements must be audited by independent external auditors before submission to the government. The government can also conduct its own audits of SMT.
And on a more light-hearted note, Beyoncé now has the most Grammy wins for all time, overtaking classical conductor Georg Solti, who held the record for over 20 years. Here's Queen Bey picking up one of her 4 Grammys at this year's awards, including Best Dance or Electronic Album for Renaissance. Despite the success, she missed out on the coveted Album of the Year award yet again, an accolade she has never won, believe it or not. Instead, Album of the Year went to Harry Styles for his 3rd record, Harry's House. Earlier in the night, he also scooped the award for Best Pop Vocal Album. And those are our top stories for today. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Chiao Suan, and I'll see you tomorrow on The Big Story.